Allow me to talk to you about something very important, something that is facing society today, something that probably you're going through even as you're watching me. We are at a point whereby majority of the youths are graduates, but they do not have jobs. And that is one of the questions which have been asked a number of times. The question is, why is it that I'm a graduate? I have a diploma, I have a degree, I have a master's, some even have doctorates, but they do not have jobs. Someone has looked around everywhere for a job, but he or she has failed to get it. He's wondering when he will ever get a job. That is a problem that is facing society, and governments have not looked for solutions to those kinds of problems. But allow me to take you through the Ugandan education system. And these are the bitter truths that you need to know about the Ugandan education system. It is okay for you to go to universities and get the degrees you want. But until you've known this, that is when you'll be able to get a remedy for you being unemployed. Number one, you need to know that the Ugandan education system was brought by our colonizers, the British Protectorate. And it was mainly brought for indoctrination, for us to align with their thoughts. That is why Uganda is called a common law abiding country. So what the British did, they brought their culture to Uganda. We got involved into the system, and that is who we are. That is why every person who comes out of university is looking for a white-collar job, is looking for an office, which may not be the case, because we all know the economy of Uganda is based on agriculture and other few activities. So that is problem number one. Problem number two, which was brought by the education system, is the fact that it only prepares people for passing. This is a kind of education system whereby cramming is a formula to passing exams. In this kind of education system, you find students laboring to understand, making quotations, putting their feet in water to cram that which is going to be brought. And when they are lucky and that which they have crammed comes, they will pass highly. But at the end of the day, they will walk out of university with a document, with flying marks, but when they cannot do anything at all. And it is all because of our education system. Problem number three is the fact that our education system just puts things in our heads. There are things which we studied in primary, which up to now I ask myself why we studied them. Stories about Samore Ture, stories about the Prelis, stories about Napoleon. They are still on the calendar. You wonder why we study them, yet we have current problems which we are going through. Instead of preparing people for the new normal, like what we are going through now, we are still battling with things which were introduced in the 1980s. Why? So, our education system just dumps things in our heads. We end up reading to pass those things, which is not fair for any normal human being. The kind of education system in Uganda does not encourage people to give birth to ideas. People are not prepared to give birth to ideas. You find that people spend half of their years in school, but they walk out with only transcripts and certificates, but with little to apply. And that is a problem which needs to be addressed accordingly. Like you who is watching me now, apart from the degree you have, the transcript and certificate, which other skills do you have? If you are given a job today, would you be able to do it? You can't. Because what you studied is totally distinct from what is going on in the world. And that is our education system. Lastly, our education system does not prepare people to run into their talents. People die with their talents in Uganda, except for a few who have succeeded, like in races, like in football and basketball. But majority of the people in Uganda die with their talents. So you find that people are stuck, they don't know what to do. Someone is like, what should I do? Just like you who is watching me, you are like, I understand what you've talked about. And indeed, that's what happened. So what do I do? Now this is what I can give to you. And I stand to be quoted. I stand to be challenged. I stand to be taken to court for this. Majority of the people in African societies who are wealthy are people who have never gone to school. Lady or gentleman, look around you. You'll find that that person who has the biggest business, who has the highest building, he has actually never gone to school. Have you ever bothered to ask yourself why? It is because he passed through conditions, and those conditions of life helped him to give birth to ideas. It is because his brain was not washed. When you're in school, your brains are washed. They are filled with things which do not help in society. But a person who has never gone to school, all he or she is looking for is survival. So he sits and thinks on how he's going to survive. And that is exactly what you are supposed to do, even though you have a first class or second class. Sit down and you think of a way for survival. Think of an idea you can put into place. Being wealthy and rich is not because someone went to school. That is why majority of the wealthy people around our societies are people who never went to school. They are people who thought of ideas. They are people who sought for wisdom. And they are people who are courageous enough to keep running their races. And in the end, they have ended up being the best. In the end, they have ended up being successful. You can also be successful too. Stop running around offices with dirty brown envelopes or catchy envelopes looking for jobs. You've wasted a lot of years. You've wasted a lot of time. You are 30, you are 27, you are 35, you're 40, you're still renting. You are 40, 35, and you're still requesting for money from your guardians. Do you know how ashamed that is? Do you know how humbling that is, that at 35 you have to say, Mommy, could you please give me 10,000 shillings? I want to buy a shirt. Aren't you fed up of that? Why don't you sit down and find a way of surviving in your society? Find a way of survival. I believe that if you look around you, there are problems that you can solve. And if you don't have any skills, go to some vocational institutes for skilling. There are other things that you can do. I know you are very good in English, But at the end of the day, after speaking the English, you'll need to eat. My viewer, I believe that together we can make good in society. Once again, thanks for watching, and do not hesitate to share this video with any of your friends. May the good Lord bless you.